Hey everybody, Zongets 134 here.
Average Joe Squad here as always.
Bringing you another episode of Remember the Hyphen, the show where we look at comic books, movies, and everything in between.
And today we're going to be reviewing the latest DC animated release. We're going to be reviewing Red Sun.
That's right. In Soviet Russia, Superman watch you.
Yeah, so this has a bit of an interesting history. It's actually based on a graphic novel, which I actually have back there. I'm not going to fish it out, but I have it. I've actually never read it. I've heard a lot about it. Like, I know the basic premise of the entire movie, as I think we both did, but both of us have never really read it. I actually bought it to get prepared for this, but then I never read it because I decided it would be better to go into this not having read the book, because then I wouldn't have anything to compare it to, I guess. I would view it as a movie rather than as a comic book movie.
Yeah. As for me, I've never read it myself. Like Colin here, I've heard of the movie, and I know the basic premise. You know, what if Superman, instead of landing in a Kansas field and being raised by farmers, he grew up on the other side of the Iron Curtain and raised by Stalin.
The glorious Soviet Russia.
Glorious Soviet Russia.
Soviet Russian jokes were abound when we were watching this.
It's hard not to do it just because the material.
Well, it's all in fun.
But as a whole, you know, going into this, I wouldn't say I had no expectations. I expected it to be interesting just because, like, I know everybody loves this movie. I knew it was going to happen eventually because basically, ever since with, you know, the popularity of, like, Gotham by Gaslight, like, them doing these Elseworlds stories is just, I think, inevitably going to happen, which excites me because as one of my favorite stories is an Elseworlds tale, that means Kingdom Come is going to happen at some point.
Plus, you know they're going to do Red Rain.
Oh,
at
yeah,
some point.
no.
They're going to have to do all... what I think what they might do when they do Red Rain is they might actually do all three Vampire Batmans together, which would make the most sense, I guess, because then you could have technically 3 different comic book storylines all in one movie.
And honestly, it's probably the only way to do that story just because of how dark it is. Although I've argued they've done it before, particularly with the TV show The Batman when they made the Batman versus Dracula. Although that is very different. For one, Batman doesn't become a vampire in that.
Yeah, but I think they'll eventually get to all of them. And whether or not you are a fan of DC doing the animations of the storylines, I mean, for me they're either hit or miss. I really liked Gotham by Gaslight. Killing Joke was kind of for some of the stuff they added in.
To be fair, Killing Joke's not really the fault of the company, more Brian Azzarello.
Yeah, my issue with Killing Joke was really just the stuff they added in at the beginning, because the rest of it was pretty clear-cut Killing Joke, and it was great.
Yeah. This, thankfully, they don't really add anything to it. It is just Superman Red Sun, and that mostly goes to the fact that it's a much bigger book than The Killing Joke. The Killing Joke is only an issue, and I get why that had to be padded
I mean, just even looking at the trades that I have, because I have... Although, granted, it's a little hard to judge, just because Killing Joke, my edition, is the deluxe edition, the hardback. So it's a bit thicker than Red Sun, but like you said, I think Red Sun is actually longer.
Yeah. But yeah, as a whole, I think this was a solid movie. I honestly... I didn't know what to expect going into this, but it certainly was very interesting. I think, for me, it's especially good if you know these characters really well and you see all the different changes that happens because of the fact of just Superman growing up in the Soviet Union.
Batman becoming a fucking terrorist.
Yeah, Batmanovich, the anarchist, who is...
He's a fucking terrorist.
Yeah, no, there's no clear... Like, he blows up buildings, he kills people.
Did I say 10 minutes? I meant 10 seconds.
Which I'm like, wow.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no. I actually also give them credit. Wonder Woman is in this, and she is flat out just a lesbian. Like.
Oh yeah, which you and I were actually surprised at, because that's always something they seem to kind of. I don't want to really say it's become a joke, because but it kind of is. Like, it's always something like, well, Diana is from Themyscira, where there's only women, so it obviously makes sense, you know. So it's kind of a joke. It's kind of not a joke in the sense that. It's just something the witty to bring up, but
that goes more to the problem with the fact that DC doesn't really want to commit to the fact that.
No, they're always they flip flop. But in this, they flat out say. I mean, there's a scene where basically Diana shows up and Superman goes to kiss her, and she's like, you know, I'm from an island where it's all women. You know, put one on together.
Actually,
and he's actually like really cool.
Yeah, no, he's really cool. He's like, oh, sorry, apologies, But like. It is kind of interesting just because, like, I honestly believe Diana's more well, and to be fair, this is this universe's Wonder Woman, but like I've always considered Diana more bisexual.
Same, actually.
Because clearly she became enamored by Steve Trevor, which wanted her to leave Man's World, and in my opinion, not just the curiousness about her relationship with Steve, but also her curiosity at Man's World, which unfortunately this Diana does not end well for Diana,
no.
Sadly.
But yeah, overall, I really like it. It looks like a DC AU movie. You know, it has the Bruce Timm flair style to it. One thing I really thought worked really well for this was the costume design.
Oh yeah, no.
The costumes all look fantastic.
Yeah.
Not only just with Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman, but I also really like just the background. I think you even noticed, a lot of the background stuff I really liked because for those who don't know, I'm a history guy. I have both a bachelor's and an MA in history. And so I was actually watching the background on a lot of stuff, and I'm like, this is actually really accurate. I think what I mentioned to you was I was looking at the guns, and I'm like, the guns are actually accurate.
Yeah, I think both the
Russian and the American ones are actually accurate.
The Russian, would they be Spetsnaz?
No, Spetsnaz came later.
Okay.
But for the Russians, they're using PPGs, and then for the Americans, they're using Thompsons, which are always like, oh my god, they actually got guns correct. I'm amazed.
I actually really like the fact that Superman has a very different costume, but it still has the
it's
things
Superman. You know, looking at it, it's Superman. It has the distinct Russian flavor.
I also actually like that he actually changes his costume as the film progresses. Like, because here he is a soldier for the Soviet people, but as it progresses, he slowly becomes more and more looking like actually what like Stalin would wear.
When it starts out, it's basically just the Superman costume, but it's got the hammer and sickle, and the color scheme's obviously different. But as you go on, like he adds like the collar insignia, and the boots and the gloves change. You can see as time goes on, because this movie takes place over a good period of time. It basically takes place from like
46 to 83.
Yeah, like 46 to 83, and then maybe a little beyond that. But so we're dealing with a large period of time, and again, they show there's a progression in the costume design.
It's actually also really interesting because out of everybody, Superman doesn't age. You actually can see everybody else age, but Superman himself does not age.
Yeah.
Implying that he.
Yeah.
Diana
ages a little bit, but that's because of something that we'll get into when we get into the plot.
Yeah. So basically, the film opens in a farm field, and at first you're like, well, this looks like Kansas, which I think is great for.
Yeah, which you actually mentioned. I even mentioned. I'm like, that had to have been the Ukraine.
Yeah. Basically, these children are chasing after who appears to be Clark, although I don't know what his name is before he becomes Superman, because. He does have like a Russian name, but like because he basically becomes Superman after the intro, basically he's only called Superman. He doesn't even know his name's Kal-El, which I find kind of interesting. But basically, these bullies chase after Clark, and he disappears, and his friend Svetlana, aka Lana Lang, Russian Lana Lang, socks the bully in the face, and he's like, if you wanted a girl, I'd hit you, basically. I'm like, oh yeah, right, 1946. And so, basically Clark, runs into Svetlana again. She's like, you can't always run from your bullies. And he goes, no, you don't understand. I don't run because I'm afraid of getting hurt. I run because I'm afraid of hurting them. And then proceeds to show off, he lifts a tractor in the air with one hand. He flies Lana into the air. And basically Svetlana's like, you have a duty to
give your power to the state.
Which I'm like,
Soviet Russia. Soviet Russia.
And so we cut ahead to him being Superman, which I guess is like the early 50s.
Yeah, I believe it's 1955. Is when we see this, which corresponds right around the period Stalin dies.
Yeah. So basically, it shows that the Soviet Union has prospered a little bit more thanks to Superman being Superman. Like they built the world's largest electro dam, which. I want to say in the real world it's the Hoover Dam that's the largest electric dam.
I think so. It's not exactly my area of expertise.
Well, I just say that because like it was interesting they said that because I'm pretty sure we actually have the biggest dam, but I don't know what. I always thought it was the Hoover, but details.
Beside the point.
And so basically, Superman, goes and and Stalin says, we complete this a lot faster thanks to Superman. And here's actually one of the things I think makes this book work really well. It's not just that he's like communist Superman that totally believes in the state. He's still Superman in spite of growing up in the Soviet Union. He's like, it wasn't just me that built this dam, it was the Soviet people that built this dam. For as much of there is of the drinking the Kool-Aid in this movie,
on both sides.
On both sides.
They don't, it's not just one
like
side.
they do not like both sides are guilty of some pretty dark stuff in this. But basically, Superman, says I did this to help, better the Soviet Union. While this is going on, Lois Lane Luthor and her husband Lex are working with Eisenhower to, because basically
they create Bizarro.
Yeah.
But he's called I think
Superior Man.
Yeah, Superior Man. For the most part, he's Superman. He's got the exact color scheme. The only real difference is that the haircut's different. It's like the military crew cut of the 1950s, as well as the fact the insignia just says U.S. instead of the hammer and sickle.
Well, before all that, they want to prove that if the Soviets actually have this Superman, so Lex asks the president to drop a satellite on Metropolis, knowing that Superman will come and, even though it is the U.S., not the USSR, Superman will still come to, and that he actually uses the fact that Superman used his hands to grip it. He left some of his DNA on the satellite, and they're going to use it to build Superior Man. While this is going on, Lois is doing her own thing, and gives Superman a document that basically that the CIA had on basically the cruelties of the USSR, and so Superman goes to this base in the mountains of the Siberia.
It's like a slave labor camp basically. It's hidden underground. It's a mine basically.
Yeah, basically insurgents and enemies of the state are sent there to mine for
till they die. It's a Soviet labor camp.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they were mining for. I assume probably metals or uranium.
Probably. It's not ever mentioned, but again, you get the point. It's a slave labor camp set up by the Soviet government.
We see Svetlana again, who I guess was thrown in there for knowing him. Which it's never really made clear why she's thrown in there, other than what you said for history wise.
Yeah, I have a theory on that. Again, going back to, I'm pretty sure the opening was set in the Ukraine. The Ukraine was really, really heavily hit during the Soviet period because Stalin was basically paranoid out the ass, and
he certainly is here.
Yeah, basically, the Ukraine got hit really hard, and there was a lot of people that were disposed from the Ukraine because they opposed Stalin and the Soviet government. So I think it was a mixture of that. It was probably a mixture of people thrown in there after the purges.
Yeah.
And it was also probably a mixture of what Lana said is that she knew who he was. And my theory basically is that Stalin did that in order to basically further the idea that Superman is an icon for the Soviet people. He's not a person, he's an icon.
And not only that, to kind of hide the fact that they didn't create him, he literally stumbled into their laps.
Yeah.
We also meet a young boy in there who's like, you have all these powers and you can hear a leaf drop 30 miles away. Why didn't you, 30,000 miles away, why didn't you hear us? And as he's talking, these bats fly above him, hinting at a character that will come later. So basically, Superman get real pissed, breaks everyone out, and him and Svetlana say goodbye to each other, and Svetlana's like, I knew one day you would come and save us from ourselves, basically.
Yeah, and then she passes.
And then she passes. And then Superman goes to talk with Yosef. Which doesn't end well for Mr. Stalin.
No, he basically... I don't think there's a speck of dust left of him when Superman's done with him.
Basically, he sees Stalin for who he really is. A paranoid... Psychopath.
A monster.
And because he basically tells him, you're young, you're innocent. You couldn't know about these tragedies that were these necessary tragedies for this, to further the state. You were like a kitten, and some death is necessary. And Superman's like, I couldn't agree more. And then he uses his heat vision to disintegrate him, effectively making him the new leader of the USSR. So yeah, and then we basically get snapshots of the the history of the USSR led by Superman.
Yeah, like the Korean War kicks up again because Superman goes in and he basically he liberates.
Yeah.
And I use that term pretty loosely. That's how they use it in the film.
Yeah.
He liberates South Korea, so Korea is basically one nation again under communism.
Yeah, and what would have taken
he ends the original. I think it's even mentioned in the film. The original Korean War was 3 years. Superman ended it in 3 hours.
3 hours. Which, yeah, I would argue Superman could actually do that because he's Superman.
Maybe even in less time than that.
Yeah. And in fact, it's kind of hilarious because I don't think this was in the book, but here his dialogue is about the world will have peace, and he basically like paraphrases the Superman 4 speech at the end.
Which I even made a joke too.
Yeah.
I was even like, it's a Quest for Peace reference.
He does that. He apparently, I think, forges ties with Soviet China, and more or less makes the USSR kind of a paradise. Until unfortunately,
Brainiac shows.
Yeah, Brainiac shows up during the '60s, which, in my opinion, not only just makes sense for like.
Oh, and before we do that, the entire plot with Superior Man, basically.
Oh yeah, that happens right before.
Which we're also right around the time they send Superior Man to attack Superman and possibly beat him. We're introduced to this world's version of Diana, aka Wonder Woman,
whose costume's really weird in this because it's like black and red and gray, which I'm like, oh, she's Nazi Wonder Woman.
Well, and again,
she's not, but like
one thing I really liked, and I remember pointing out to you as well when we were watching, is that like everything about her, down to the hairstyle and the earrings, it's Golden Age Wonder Woman, which I really appreciate because
actually I noticed that about Lois too. Lois looks a lot like her. She does.
Yeah, it's a nice little touch. It's very subtle, but I feel like it really adds a lot to just this is the time period we're in. So they made the characters look like they did during their original Golden Age appearances.
Yeah. So basically, Lex has developed his own Superman. He's not entirely like just a Kryptonian human hybrid. He actually has like technology in him.
Yeah, but
he's powered by
he's basically bizarre,
like a solar nuclear reactor.
So he's Nuclear Man from Superman Quest for Peace.
Nuclear Man if he was a super patriot, because I loved Superior Man because he just America first.
Yeah,
I am truth. I am justice.
I think when he said that the first time, I think I died. Like I was just laughing. I'm like,
I was
oh my God.
Wow,
full on American Kool-Aid being
late
drank.
Late 50s, early 60s American jingoism, you say?
Yeah.
And so basically, they send him careening into the Russian premiere. He
screams. He screams Superman, to which I think your joke was, "You don't have to shout. I'm right here. Damn it."
Because like he shouts and it's in like the sonic shout like that Superman sometimes
blows
can do.
all the windows out.
Blows all the windows out. I almost want him to be like, "I hear there's oil here."
I think I made a democracy reference too.
We're gonna liberate you for oil. I mean democracy. And so Superman, sheds his Russian
his dress uniform
and switches into his Superman uniform, which I guess he wore under his clothes. And so he takes Superior Man into the Siberian wilderness, and they have a drag-out fight. I will admit, it's a pretty good fight.
Oh yeah, it really is. And to Superman's credit, he actually gives Superior Man a chance to surrender. He's like, "Look, I want to help you."
Yeah.
Granted, it's with the the Russian flair. Like, I want to help you. You've been misled by the capitalist system. And basically Superior Man just goes like no, I'm an American. I'll never surrender to a Rusky. Like
he even says Rusky.
When they throw the Rusky word out, I'm like, oh damn!
I think he even calls him a commie bastard in this. Too.
Yeah, like we're going full accurate 1950s. Yeah. This is how they would have talked.
And it's interesting because the Lex in this has been very not nearly as evil in my He does wear the lab coat you would see Lex wearing in this time period, but you can kind of tell he's not completely the obsessive Lex Luthor. Because he clearly cares about his relationship with Lois in this. They actually have a relationship. Lois even understands that he doesn't always remember their work because he is America's leading scientist. Who would you consider him being the closest anagram to a real life scientist that would be working at this time?
Probably Einstein, honestly. I think that's what they went for. Either that or maybe von Braun.
Yeah. And so basically Superman starts losing because, as Superman even states, our intelligence says he's not complete. He has
flaws.
He has flaws. And that is that he's powered by, like, a neutron star? I don't know what that reactor was, but, like, basically as he's losing, he tells the guys, like, give him more juice, and they're like, but he's already at, like, max capacity. He's gonna overload. He's like, I know that, just keep feeding him more and more power.
And with every time they feed, Superior Man more power, he mutates more and more, and he really starts to look more like the traditional Bizarro character.
Yeah. Actually, before he looked like Bizarro Man, I just remembered who he looks like. He looks like Ultraman, the Crime Syndicate version of Superman.
Oh yeah, he does.
He does look like, especially with the crew cut. I realized because I was trying to figure out why he looked like to me. And I'm like, oh, he looks like Ultraman.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, in the Crime Syndicate universe, all the Justice League is evil, hence why they're called the Crime Syndicate. And Superman in that universe is called Ultraman. No relation to the Japanese hero. And so, eventually, Superman's body can't handle all this power, and he basically starts to disintegrate. And actually, one of the reasons why I love this movie so much is we get to see the humane side to Superman, that for all of the Soviet training, like, deep down, that this is still Superman. And he holds him, and he's like, what's happening to you? And, like, Superman's like, don't know. Everything hurts. Like, and he
basically disintegrates. And he disintegrates in Superman's arms, and Superman is just horrified by it.
Yeah, and in fact, they're actually watching because, like, they put, like, a camera inside, like, his body.
Which I don't know how they would have done that at that point, but
it's like you can see Lex has, like, much more superior technology.
Yeah,
like he's like way ahead of the time in terms.
It's one of those things you have to suspend your disbelief for just a little bit.
Well, it's comic books. And so, what actually I think is really interesting here is that while Lex does become obsessed with being Superman, it's not to the point he is, I think, in comic book wise. Because he is because Lois is horrified by what he did, and you can kind of see that he himself realizes that he almost let himself go that route. But like because of Lois, he realizes, like, I can't hurt people just because I want to. Like, he clearly still wants to make anti-Superman weapons, but it's not to the
point where he loses his humanity.
Yeah, like, in fact, I actually argue that's why he still keeps his hair throughout most of this. He loses it naturally, but it's not like... It's not like, Superman made him lose his hair. It literally is like he's
just aging.
Yeah, he's just aging. I actually think that was interesting, that Lois is actually both Superman's ties to humanity and also Lex's in this. It's really interesting for me that I think I actually like this Luthor a lot. He's very much a good guy in this, in my opinion.
And so after that happens, we lead into the next part of the movie, which has communist Batman.
Well, before that, we open on the building of the Berlin Wall.
Oh yeah, Superman, which was great. As soon as they showed the wall being built, and
which actually had Jack Ryder, aka the Creeper, if you know your modern comics, which is actually really cool.
Yeah, so they're building the Berlin Wall, and then Superman comes up and he's like, "I'm going to tear down this wall," and he just destroys it. And it was the funniest and most beautiful thing I think in the whole movie was Superman tearing down the Berlin Wall.
Especially,
I want a poster of that.
What's funny is you can clearly see a lot of reused assets from other Bruce Timm.
Oh yeah, I actually mentioned that.
Yeah, because the general that's building the wall looks like Cosgrove from Freakazoid.
Yeah, and then earlier in that they had they had a Russian general who I even mentioned. I even backed it up because I was looking at him. And I was like, wait a minute, he's actually Vladimir Egan from Batman Beyond, the pilot.
Well, you at first thought he was Gorbachev, which I almost went with you until I realized he didn't have a birthmark.
The more I kept going, I was just like, that looks really familiar.
That actually would have been hilarious if Gorbachev was one of the reasons Superman mellowed out so much, just because of the fact that he's the one who...
I got Superman McDonald's.
And let Baryshnikov dance. But, so basically, all of Europe is absorbed into the USSR, unlike, because basically, what are they gonna do? Like, they can't win a war. But, and so, we clearly see, Superman is working to create a paradise, and then Stalingrad is taken by Brainiac. Basically, Superman, fights Brainiac, but Brainiac unfortunately bottles Stalingrad, much like, Kandor or any other. Superman does manage to defeat Brainiac, and instead of destroying him completely, he makes him basically the foundations of the Russian infrastructure. because he basically becomes like this supercomputer that runs pretty much all of the Soviet Union. Brainiac himself actually does. As you can see, he actually gets more and more humanoid as the film produces. Like,
and I even mentioned to you that by near the end of the movie, he really reminds me of the robot from.
He looks like the robot from Metropolis.
Metropolis.
Which I would not be surprised that was a thing they were doing, because I know that there's an Elseworld story where they literally do Superman in Metropolis, and instead of him being like a robot, he's so basically, he's the Soviet Union has turned itself around, but anyone who's an enemy of the state basically gets lobotomized and put like this weird probe in their head that makes them basically zombies that work for the good of the Soviet Union. Which actually is kind of why Wonder Woman starts getting skeeved out by Superman, because she's like, my mother wants to close the Themyscirian embassy and basically remove Themyscira from man's world. But I'm stalling for time because I want to show her that you guys still can...
Yeah. Basically, Diana holds out hope for man a really long time throughout the movie.
Unfortunately, it gets dashed by our next contestant on... Holy crap, could you people all stop drinking the Kool-Aid so much? Batmanovich, a.k.a. Russian Batman.
Yeah, our introduction to him is, they're showing a museum just explaining about how Brainiac took Stalingrad and Superman defeated him, and, it's led to this technology where he's been reintegrating people from Stalingrad into society. And then all of a sudden, somebody jacks into the intercom, and it's Batman. He's basically like, I've got a bomb in there. You have 10 minutes to escape before I blow it up. And then all of a sudden there's an explosion. And he's like, did I say 10 minutes? I meant 10 seconds.
Yeah. No.
Which I think I even mentioned. I was like, Jesus Christ.
If there's any sort of weakness I have, is that this Batman is a psychopath.
He's literally a terrorist.
Well, he's an anarchist. Well, yeah, he's supposed to be an anarchist, I guess. But, like, at the same time, I'm like...
He's more anarchy than anarchy actually is.
Like, because basically he's that little boy that Superman rescued from the mines, and he brings Superman back to those mines because he's going to basically put him there so that he can, grasp control of the USSR. He actually manages to capture Wonder Woman in a really weird plot line that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, this was the one thing that, without reading the book, I can't tell if it was actually in the book or not, and I've never seen anything else like it. Basically, Batman defeats Wonder Woman by using her lasso to kind of like bind her to him, and that he basically mentions to Superman, like, if you hurt me, she's prone to kill herself, which is just fucking weird. And I think we even both talked about it. Like, that's not how that lasso works.
Yeah, because she even says the lasso is tied to my life force, and I'm like,
that's not how that works.
Yeah, no, the lasso's just supposed.
The
lasso's just supposed to be this gift that was given to her by the gods, much like her armor and her powers.
Yeah, it's that was something I think you and I didn't enjoy, just because I was like, that's kind of
Yeah, and so basically Batmanovich, who we find out is working with Luthor, or he doesn't say he's working with Luthor, but it's implied.
It's implied.
And so basically Superman was going to fight him until Batman pulls out the red sun lamps. Basically, he's rigged them. He had prep time, so he rigged the mine to be
Batman
covered
had prep time, so Batman always wins if he's got prep time.
And he basically covers the whole thing in red solar energy, which, if you know Superman, that drains him of his strength. And
basically just beats the shit out
of
Superman.
Which is another plot point that's really weird to me. It's very convenient, because basically Superman doesn't know he's weak to red sun radiation, but Luthor and Batman somehow figured it out.
And then it's never brought up again, which is really weird. I guess it's there for plot convenience.
Yeah, you have this weapon that can weaken Superman enough that you can defeat him, but nothing comes of it. I guess it's also probably a reference to the Iran-Contra scandal, or how the U.S. government would fund basically anything, any organization that was anti-Russia, even if it was meant that people would die.
Like Al-Qaeda, for example.
Al-Qaeda, the Iran-Contra. And so, he beats the crap out of Superman. I mean, he bloodies him. It is...
It's really brutal to watch, honestly.
Yeah, no, this movie actually, I don't think you were expecting it. This movie is really brutal. You see people losing their hands, you see, which I was
just
corpses.
like, Jesus Christ.
And so, he throws Batman into a prison cell, which also has red sun radiation pouring through it. and basically says, I'm going to take over this control of this country and I'm going to liberate it. Which, I'm like, is your liberation going to be just murdering people?
Third Russian Revolution.
Yeah. And so basically, after seeing all this, Wonder Woman's like, no, I was wrong. My mother was right. Men cannot be trusted. And so she uses her strength to, I guess, use all her power to rip the lasso apart, which effectively makes it inert. And then proceeds to rip the battery that's powering the red sun lamps and rips it in half at the cost of I think it was supposed to imply that it aged her, but then later on
she goes from having like her traditional black hair and it's white, and I even imply she definitely looks aged, but I don't know if that was because she actually aged or if it was because she had that fight with Batman.
And so the lights go out, and I think Batman almost beats her up, and then Superman comes blasting out of his cell
with just the red eyes. It's like,
you are dead. You are so dead, dude. And Batman, and I think Batman was kind of just like, no. Superman was like, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm gonna
help you
by brainwashing you and making you work in Russian laundromat.
Yeah, so Batman just blows himself up. He's like, nah, I'd rather die.
I'd rather die. And to be fair, that's probably the only thing I agreed with this Batman was that, nah, that's a fate worse than death.
Yeah, I'd rather die. I'd rather blow myself up.
And so Diana basically says, my mother was right, and I need to, our friendship is basically over. And so he doesn't see her again until the 80s, when, while this is going on, Kennedy and Luthor bring
Hal Jordan
to Area 51, where they have an alien in a green jumpsuit with a ring on its finger, and they decide to use the ring that they found on this thing to make a new Army Corps.
Yeah, and it's basically, I even mentioned it to you, they allude a lot to the Roswell stuff in this, which makes sense, given the time period.
If you know anything about Green Lantern, that's Abin Sur they have on the table, but he looks almost nothing like Abin Sur.
What he really looks like if you've ever seen the Roswell autopsy alien video, supposed alien autopsy video, which I think they actually even said is fake now. They proved that is faked.
It looks like how the supposed Roswell witnesses say, they have the big head, the almond-shaped eyes.
Yeah, that's why I brought it up to you. I'm like, that's why he looks like that. Yeah. They're just doing a reference.
Well, it's just weird to me because I know Green Lantern's origin pretty well, and I've seen Abin Sur.
As do I.
It was just weird to me because I'm like, because he has the colors of Abin Sur. I'm like, why does he look like that? And after you told me that, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit of artistic.
And so, basically, Superman now lives pretty much in solitude.
With his buddy Brainiac.
And basically Brainiac says, I think our best chance in order to, because actually as we got into the 80s, JFK got assassinated. They still have him assassinated.
Yeah, and Lex Luthor becomes president. So I think you were like, I see Lex had Kennedy assassinated.
But I don't know. This Luthor might not have done that. But
yeah, they don't even mention who killed him.
Yeah,
because it's not really
they literally just show his funeral, his funeral procession.
Yeah, it's that really famous image of just the lone horse drawing the carriage.
And although I will admit, Eisenhower and Kennedy looked really weird in this.
Oh yeah, which I don't know why, because I'm pretty sure you can use their likeness.
I think so, but I know it's kind of.
I almost wonder if they did it to just be respectful.
Yeah,
but then
it's kind of a
sketch. Stalin, and he's totally 100% Stalin. Well, yeah, but that's because it's Stalin.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think Putin's gonna watch this and be like, Americans.
Yeah, this is Putin's new favorite Superman movie. That's what
it probably is. Especially because it not only makes Russia
I want 10 sequels of this.
It does make communism look bad. We don't look too much better either in this. So basically, Luthor decides to instigate his plan to try and defeat Superman, which is to launch the Green Lantern Army Corps, basically. Which I actually kind of like the idea here, where they're dressed in flight suits.
Yeah, and they have not only do they have Hal Jordan.
Yeah, they got Jon Stewart.
It's actually the original voice actor.
Yeah, they got and it's awesome because basically Guy Gardner's actually in there too. He doesn't last very long, but basically they're flying, to kill Superman. And basically he doesn't want to go. Superman doesn't want to go to war because that's not what he wants to do.
It'll lead to more people dying. He's like, no, that's not what I want to do.
And so Brainiac's like, you might not have a choice. He's like, is it missiles? And Brainiac's like, no, it's something way worse. And so basically he runs into the Green Lantern Corps and they have this big drawn out fight. And it's basically Top Gun. I love because it's the 80s, so it's basically Top Gun, and I loved it. And it's actually pretty cool too because they do a lot of really neat things with the rings, aside from defending themselves by putting themselves in a green safe.
Which I was like, obvious pun is obvious.
Well, then, like, especially because, like, they make machine guns, they make missiles, like, they do things that, like, military would do.
Yeah, so
and then they have the safe.
But yeah, so they're all fighting. It looks like they've kind of got Superman contained, and then all of a sudden, like, this, like, it looks like a sonic bomb goes off above them. And it's actually Diana, and Diana's got this really cool costume at this point. Like, it's all white except for the gold eagle.
Yeah, and now her hair's not white, now it's blonde. Which I think is also in reference to Hippolyta, because Hippolyta herself is usually drawn with blonde hair, unless the writer's like, no, she needs to look like Wonder Woman, which doesn't really mesh with Wonder Woman's origin, if you know it.
Which origin, though? Because we've had so many different origins.
I'm going with the good origin, not the one where she's a child of Zeus and has daddy issues. Now, I cannot stand modern writers making her a child of Zeus. Like, because people are like, well, she was made from clay, so obviously she's like a golem monster. I'm like,
no.
It was magic. The gods made that clay a real baby. Like, there's no reason to, like, go with the bullshit. Oh, no, because, like, and I know it because, like, mostly because I think it makes her more special.
Yeah.
Especially because that's also the current Wonder Girl's origin, is that she's the daughter of Zeus. And we all know how great Cassie is. But anyway.
I still maintain Donna is still the true Wonder Girl.
Donna is the only good Wonder Girl. But, well, I mean, aside from Diana herself. But
getting
back on track from my diatribe there. So, basically, Diana's like, I want to give you one last chance, but I can see man's world still will not change. You will never see Themyscira again. It will be hidden from man's eyes, and we are washing our hands of you. And
basically, Superman tries to punch her, which Diana just stops and is like, seriously?
Yeah, like, so, alright, our friendship is over then, and she just leaves. And I think that's actually kind of the beginning of Superman realizing his mistakes. Which, Hal pays the most price, because after she leaves, Hal goes, women, alright? Like,
I'm almost positive he breaks Hal's skull.
Yeah, no, he dead. In fact, all the Green Lanterns, I'm pretty sure, are dead, which is sad, because, like, John Stewart, my favorite Green Lantern's right there.
Poor Guy Gardner is the first one to die.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, this is a bug hunt, man, game over, man, game over!
He basically turns it into an Alien reference.
Which is weird, because that's not the Guy Gardner, I know. So, basically, Superman and Brainiac fly their way to the White House, and there's no weaponry. Like, literally, there's no, like, missile defense systems, there's no jets. Literally, the White House is
totally undefended, which I'm like, okay, that's not normal.
But that's because I think Lois was like, all right, we tried it your way. They don't say it, like, there's no scene, but, like, basically Lois is like,
we're gonna try it my way now.
And so, basically, she comes out holding the bottled city of Stalingrad, and Superman's like, how did you get that? We have our ways. And so,
man on the inside.
Yeah, basically she's like, you have the technology, and yet you never freed Stalingrad from the bottle. Why didn't you ask Brainiac? And Superman was like, I tried, but he's too damaged to be able to make it work. And
Brainiac basically comes on, and he's like, actually, the restoration ability was always there. You just didn't want to use it. I never said that. Your words weren't necessary.
Yeah, basically Brainiac, and so basically it argues that Brainiac still was pulling basically Superman's strings. That basically he was like, I see now, like, why have a bottled city when I can have an entire world, which is weird for Brainiac.
I even mentioned, like, that's actually a pretty solid plan by Brainiac standards.
It is, but, like, to be fair, Brainiac's whole thing is he wants to be the only holder of knowledge. Like, that's why he destroys all the planets but bottles a part of it, because he still wants to have the knowledge of that world, but that knowledge is no good to him if everyone else knows it. If that makes any sense. I'm not saying it's a logical thing. It's what a computer would think.
Yeah.
And so basically, Superman tries to fight Brainiac, but Brainiac's much stronger than he was when Superman fought him before, and basically he destroys the bottled city of Stalingrad, and then proceeds to try and kill Superman, and basically knocks one of the pillars of the White House over and almost kills Lois. Who actually looks really much like Jackie Kennedy.
Yeah,
in her older age.
Again, I'm almost positive that was a purposeful choice.
And so it looks like she's going to die, but then comes Luthor in his power armor, which I actually really like this version of his power armor. Although he still doesn't have like a helmet. I'm like, dude.
It reminds me a lot of the one that's in Injustice.
Actually looks a lot like Farah's from Overwatch. Only without the Egyptian eagle motif. But so Luthor's like, I'm going to help Superman stop Brainiac. I need you to get back inside, and I promise you I'm going to save everyone. And so him and Luthor work together to defeat Brainiac. Superman actually gets in thanks to Luthor using these like weird discs that I think lowers the defense shield that Brainiac has on it. And so Superman, gets into the control room and he's like, "You've been controlling me this whole time like a puppet." And basically Brainiac's like, "I merely did as you asked because it was the only logical thing to do. At the end of the day, you still caused all of this." And so Superman's like, "I'm finally going to do something." Basically, I'm going to finally be Superman now. And uses his hands and heat vision to rip the final barrier apart and literally beheads Brainiac and just holds the head in his hands. And so Luthor's like, "Great work, Superman. What are you going to... So now that we've defeated Brainiac, are you going to leave this planet for good?" And Superman basically says, my only want right now is to bury this in the Sea of Tranquility, which I think is the moon, right? He's referring to the moon. "I'm going to bury this on the Sea of Tranquility, and then I will decide whether or not I should stay." Unfortunately, the ship Brainiac was going to explode, because I think it's powered by, like, black holes?
Yeah, that, and it has a self-destruct built in, because, of course, everything has a self-destruct built into it.
So Superman uses his power and drives the thing to space, and Lois even goes, to Luthor, like, what's he doing? And Luthor goes, he's saving the world. So, Superman takes him to space and hears Svetlana's, like, I thought you're going to save the world. And Superman smiles for the first time in a long time, and then the ship blows and Superman dies. And so Lex actually is inspired by this. Like, he's like, that basically, like, I've seen the good that Superman could do, and basically I've decided to step down. And so he steps down, and his vice president, Jimmy Olsen, who I didn't realize was Jimmy Olsen that whole movie, because he's the CW Jimmy Olsen.
I actually had to mention it to you that it was the CW version of Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, okay. And so basically he's like, we're going to build this world. It won't be perfect, but it's going to be better than what we have right now. We're going to help the Soviet Union because it's crumbling, and we're going to make a better world. And so basically, Lois and Lex plan out what they're going to do now that they're no longer the president and first lady. And in the crowd, she sees a mysterious man wearing a fedora, a trench coat, and glasses, implying that that's Clark Kent, implying that Superman is now walking among us as Clark Kent. And that he's now the real Superman, basically. And that's where it ends. So, honestly, as a whole, it was a really solid movie for me.
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. I kind of went into it thinking, like, I'm probably going to enjoy a lot of parts of this, but I might not enjoy it overall. I was really pleasantly surprised to see that I enjoyed basically the whole movie.
Yeah. Like I said, there's only some small parts of it for me that's weird. Mostly the Batman stuff, oddly enough.
Yeah, and the whole thing with the lasso with Wonder Woman was just weird for me.
Honestly, as a whole, I think it was really good. The animation's really well done. Only animation things I don't care for is the Eisenhower and Kennedy stuff, but that's just because I feel like they were trying to make it look like the two of them, but not so close it might have gotten them in trouble.
Yeah, which I don't know.
I mean, I can kind of see that with Kennedy, but I mean, to be fair, I've seen cartoons make parodies of both of those characters, and I don't really see what was the issue there. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a solid movie. So I think that's gonna wrap it up for this one, guys.
Yeah, I think we shared our thoughts pretty early on, so I don't think there's really a need to really wrap everything up. Again, I recommend watching it. It's a pretty solid film. Whether or not you've read Sun, the graphic novel, or not, I think most people will generally enjoy this.
And hey, it's a good way to kill some time while you're in quarantine.
Yeah.
So
that's gonna do it for this episode, guys. As always, I'm Average Joe Squad.
I'm Zongets 134.
And as always, we ask you,
remember the hyphen and take care.